Hi, everyone. Thank you. My name is Mike, as I was introduced. I spent most of my career, actually all of my career, in the education sector. I work for Snyk now, but I'm still doing education with a product, developer education product called Snyk Learn. But I worked as a full-time professor in computer science, a part-time professor. I still teach part-time now at a few different institutions. I've been a student for a long, long time. So I did my bachelor's of computer science, master's, PhD, and then in CISSP. So I've done a lot of learning in my career, but I've also done a lot of teaching as well, too. It gives me a unique perspective in the sense that we've all been students before. I'm sure some people here are part-time faculty. Anyone teach part-time? Oh, yeah, I got a couple people. Okay. I've also been a full-time faculty, so I did that for about 4 years. Liked it, did not love it, teaching full-time, so I transitioned out of that pretty quickly. I was a staff member. I started my career off as a developer. I worked at a university, and we built custom software for a student information system, which held grades and other sensitive data. I then transitioned into a management role where I was a manager of IT and then a director of IT. So I've seen education, and that was all at a university. So I've seen education from every single angle there is. And I've noticed there's a big gap missing, specifically in computer science. So it's the skills we learn versus the skills that we need. They don't necessarily align to each other. And for anyone who has taken a Bachelor of Computer Science or engineering or anything like that, you may have noticed there's a little bit of a gap in what you've learned in school and sort of what you need for your job. This is a real email, and I don't know if you can read it, but I'll read it to you. It says, "Hi, Professor. I have to say there's a bit of a learning gap as far as the courses that have been available through institution. A significant shortcoming here, in my opinion, is security. Do you have any recommendations for materials that would cover security considerations from a developer's perspective?" This was from a student who I taught in second year, fourth semester. Fourth year, second semester, had that backwards. So they were getting ready to graduate. They're graduating in a couple of months, and they had no idea about anything regarding computer security. They've never taken a course on it. They've never taken any kind of modules or subjects on it. The only exposure they got was a course that I was teaching, software engineering, and I actually injected some security into it because it wasn't there before. But they really, really enjoyed that section, but that's all they got. Okay, so who here, let's do a show of hands first. Who here took computer science or computer engineering or something like that? Show of hands. Okay, lots are up there. Okay, now keep your hand up if you didn't take a dedicated cybersecurity course. Okay, so there's a lot of us here. I'm in the same boat as well, too. Actually, throughout all my levels of study, I never took a cybersecurity course. That is a big, big gap. So you're not alone in this sense. And maybe some of you graduated many years ago. Maybe some of you graduated recently. But it's a problem still. It was a problem 20 years ago. It's a problem today still. There are some common courses in computer science, and these might be familiar to most of you. You take like an introductory to programming course, typically in maybe Java or Python. Algorithms course, a database course, systems analysis, lots of math. These are kind of the core courses, what we call them throughout computer science. There's a few other ones as well too, but these are what are the core courses. The forgotten course, and kind of what I'm talking to you about today, is security. Security, as far as I'm concerned, is computer science. But if you look at curriculums across North America, that would not be the case. So in my experience, I was teaching a fourth-year computer science course. This is what I was alluding to earlier. The course belonged to a full-time faculty member, and the material was very outdated. So the part-time instructors that we had a couple woos, maybe you're familiar with, the semester starts in a week. The school asks you to teach a course. You say, okay, and you don't really have much prep time. They say, but don't worry, we have a course that exists already. We'll give you the professor's material. And then you look at that material, and it hasn't been updated in 10 years, 20 years. I've actually, when I was a full-time professor, part of the reason why I left, I was given a course that hadn't been updated since 1998. I thought to myself, personally, I can't put my name on this course. I'm not comfortable teaching this, so I spent all my time updating the course. And you're a week ahead of the student. That's what they call it. So you teach something that you just, you got the lecture done the night before, you teach it the next day, and you try to stay 1 week ahead of the students. Because a lot of the courses that you get are just very, very outdated. So in this course that I was given, I retooled it as much as I could in the short time that I had. And I started with a review of cryptography. And I talked about encryption, and I talked about hashing. And I thought I was doing a review. This is a fourth-year computer science course. I assumed I'm doing a review. I wanted to make sure that the students were all at a baseline. And I saw this when I was looking out. Nobody had any idea what I was talking about. And, so I'm explaining the basics, what I thought. I'm seeing all these blank stares, and I thought, okay, raise your hand if you have any idea what I'm talking about, and nobody had any idea what I was talking about. This was their first time ever having experience with cybersecurity in any kind of way, or just security in general. So I started doing a poll. I did an anonymous poll, and I said, okay, let's ask a few questions to try to get that baseline so I know what to teach. So how HTTPS worked, they didn't know. The difference between encryption and hashing, they didn't know. The concept of CIA, that whole CIA triad, they had no idea. And talking about something not technical, but what is personally identifiable information, students didn't have any idea what that was. This was just not covered in any of the curriculum that they took. So what I thought I was doing a review of, I was really doing an introduction of. And then I had to retool my notes again for the week after to go over the basics and try to explain it in a very condensed period of time. I want to give you some stats with the next two slides here. So for computer science, 50% of high school students are offered a foundational computer science course. So this has nothing to do with computer security, just computer science. So a little over half are actually offered this, but 5.8% of students are enrolled in those courses. And this is for the US. So there's not necessarily a ton of interest in computer science at the high school level. But then when you go to the university level, you do get a lot of students taking computer science. I think a lot of students realize it's not what they expected because they don't have that experience from high school. It's maybe harder than they thought. And then on top of that, they're not learning necessarily what they want to learn. So the missing security course. I've done some research here. I've painfully gone to hundreds of university websites. I've looked at their curriculum. I'm familiar with it, so I know what I'm looking for. I've looked at the outlines. I've looked at what's required, not what's not required. I am Canadian. Please don't hold that against me. So 13% of the top Canadian universities require computer science students to take a security course. So it's not that it's being offered at the institution. It's a required part of the program. So that's 13%. For the US, it's a little different. 0% of the top American universities actually require you to take a cybersecurity course as part of your basic Bachelor of Computer Science. Now, obviously, you can specialize in some stuff, and you can take G-certs, or what we call graduate certificates. There's lots of other stuff that you can do to get exposed to it. But I'm talking about the core Bachelor of Computer Science or Bachelor of Engineering, 0%. So not a great number. But we can only go up from here. I'll talk a little bit about electives and requirements just a bit, just to give you an idea of kind of what I'm talking about here and how this works. Electives, as we know, are optional courses for students to take. And at universities, electives are outside the major. Sometimes you have electives inside the major, but you'll have, like, if you're taking computer science, you'll have to take some humanities, maybe some social science, etc. So those are courses you take outside of your major. But electives that you take inside of your major, such as you need to take 10 third-year courses that are outside your core courses, these are at the discretion of the faculty. And what this means is that if you have a researcher, or if you have a faculty member who's currently researching AI, then it's likely they're going to offer a course based on their research. So you're likely to have a course on AI. If you have a faculty member doing research into cybersecurity, it's likely that they're going to offer a course on cybersecurity. But if you don't have any faculty members who are interested or researching cybersecurity, you're not going to get any courses, electives on that. I was fortunate, or I guess the students were fortunate, depending on how you want to look at it. I was doing a lot of research into cybersecurity, so when I taught at institutions, I always offered a cybersecurity course. But when I left that institution, that course was never taught again. And so students never had a chance to take those courses. There's a few problems. I'll admit I thought I was presenting for a lot longer than I was, so I cut some slides out. So one of the problems I want to highlight is that developers without proper security knowledge and security training, there's two things that are going to happen. One, they're going to write insecure code and not realize it, which is a problem. But two, they're going to generate insecure code and not realize that it's insecure. Right? We have AI generating lots and lots of code, which is great, but if it's generating insecure code and you don't know it's insecure, that's not really beneficial to anybody. So with the adoption of AI code, there's obviously more code being generated faster, but there's also more risk involved. We hope that all the code that gets generated is secure, right? We know that's not the case for anyone who's worked with generated code before. But if you don't have the knowledge of what insecure code is and what the basics of cybersecurity, you're not going to be able to identify this insecure code, and that's going to just make its way right into production. Okay, so what's the solution? We recognize the problem, but how do we fix it? I don't really have an answer. I do have some slides to talk about, but it's not necessarily the golden solution here. So first, I want to bring these two closer together. So industry and academia, I want them to be more tightly connected. Not always the case. Some institutions do this really, really well. They're the minority. For the most part, institutions really struggle with connecting with academia. I think it can go both ways, right? We can have academia influence industry with some of the cool research that they're doing, but we can also have industry influence academia with some of the curriculum and some of the stuff that's currently being seen right then and there. University, so I teach part-time. Again, I've done a lot of university. It's a little bit outdated at times, right? It just takes a long time to move. I want to make sure I'm on time here. It can take about 1.5 to 2 years to update curriculum at the university. It's just the way that it works, right? Marketing materials go out in November for something that starts next September. And so if you want to make a change, you need to make it for the year after that. It just takes a long time to make changes at universities. So if something cool comes out, the latest and greatest tech, universities aren't going to adopt that for at least 2 years. And that's just how it is. So we need these two to start working closely together. Partnerships, most universities, if you don't know this, they have advisory boards. And so these advisory boards have members of industry sit on these boards, and they help influence curriculum, and they help influence the program. So these advisory boards are really, really good to help guide academic programs. Again, you might not be able to make a change the next day, but you may be able to make a change or influence a change the next year or even the year after that. At least it's something. So if you're interested in this, check with your local university or college or maybe one that you've graduated from and see if there is an advisory board, and join it if you want to. It's really, really good. Placements are also important. Institutions can collaborate with cybersecurity companies to offer internships, apprenticeships, allow students to work on real projects. I think if schools can work closely with academia, have some these internships available, let students take a semester off where they work for a company, whether it's local or remote, give them experience working on actual code bases or on actual projects. I think that's really, really important because a lot of the skills they're going to learn are going to be on the job. Right? 4 years is not enough time to cover everything. I know 4 years seems like a long time, but a lot of that's filled with electives and other stuff. Plus, students are taking potentially 5 courses at once, and school's a lot. So I think having these internships give students a real chance to learn on-the-job skills that they wouldn't necessarily learn otherwise. Okay, I wrote a paper. I'm going to put this QR code up at the end as well too. But I wrote a white paper called Developer Training in Cybersecurity, where it talks about all this stuff just in a little bit more length. And this is another email that I got after I implemented a cybersecurity course at an institution. Hi, Professor. I just wanted to thank you for the course. This was by far the most useful course I've taken. I learned an exceptional amount in just 12 weeks, yada, yada, yada. This is not a brag email. This is just an email saying that students really do appreciate when faculty put time into something and they teach something really relevant to what they need. Students enjoy it. Faculty enjoy it. I always love receiving emails like this. And so I think if we can work together, industry and academia, get some new courses, somehow convince institutions to start teaching cybersecurity courses as a mandatory core course, students will really, really appreciate it. We're also just going to make a more secure community by having people with more knowledge in the field. Okay, that's everything that I had. I'm happy to take questions afterwards. I love talking about this. I don't know if we have enough time for questions. Okay, yes, at the back, go ahead.
Okay, so I think our most popular, thank you. We have a master's degree in cybersecurity that's extremely popular. We have we offer, I don't know, 15 courses or 18 security courses to choose from and stuff. The undergraduate computer security class, which I teach, is the second most popular elective behind AI, and was the most popular elective until a few years ago. So I think that some of the problems you're pointing out might be more institution specific rather than global across especially the many schools in the ecosystem.
Yeah, so actually Snyk and our security education content, which we have for free, we actually partnered with NYU. And so students can earn a badge through there. And you mentioned the elective part that is most popular. It is. By far it is, but it's an elective. Students don't necessarily have to take it. And NYU, for sure, they're taking it, but that's not true at all other institutions. So I've taught at multiple institutions, not just one that I'm trying to throw under the bus. I've taught at a bunch across North America. And this is kind of the general problem that I'm seeing. Like I said, there are some schools, NYU, there's lots of others that are doing really well. But for the most part, a lot of them I find are struggling. But yeah, it's going to vary from place to place for sure. There's a few more hands. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks. I'm from UC Santa Cruz. I run the OSPO there, and this is actually an issue just, I feel like, for open source in general. I mean, we have a hard time getting open source courses into our curriculum, but I really liked your point about industry and academia colliding, connecting, and I think just also leveraging summers, I think, is really, really useful in this case, because I mean, aside from just your regular internships, just having like intensive summer coursework that students can do, and they will take. You're right. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be required, but it would be something I think a lot of students would be very interested in doing. So that would be something where I think industry could come in and help, like, help the professors create modules that would help them do something like that I think could really be useful. And just modules in general also, maybe that's also a useful way for industry, is to create modules, because I think those can get brought into existing curriculum more easily than saying changing up an entire CS class, but but I have this little module that you can just help integrate into your existing class, and that could happen way faster than, say, the lead time that you were talking about. That could be like next quarter, I can add that to my session. So
yeah, that's something I know I'm at time. Sorry, that's something I'm working on right now to help. We're starting a university partnership program this summer where we want to create modules which universities can freely have, where they can implement it in their course. So something I'm working on. And thank you all very much. Happy to chat more after, but thank you.